Hello and welcome to AXSchat. I'm absolutely delighted that we're welcoming Denise Lamoreaux to our show today. Denise is a colleague of mine. She's our first global Chief Diversity Officer for Atos Group, which is a really big deal for both us and for Denise, and is doing some great work. And we're really very pleased to have someone on that is a champion of inclusivity like Denise here on AXSchat. So Denise, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and also about the role that you've taken on?
Sure, and thank you so much for having me here with you all today. It's a really great opportunity to be able to talk a little bit more about what Atos is doing in the space of diversity and inclusion. So as Neil said, I'm Denise, and I'm located in Rochester, New York. And about 2 years ago, I was moved into a diversity officer role for North America. At that time, we had a group level program at Atos, but it was run mainly by volunteers. I was the first person appointed into an actual full-time role in the North American region. So it was my task and duty to start to pull together a cohesive program based on all of the 4 pillars that we support in our diversity space, which include gender, generations, culture, and accessibility disability. So I began to focus on a North American program, but quickly realized that we were missing out on too many opportunities to take what we were pulling together outward to the greater Atos audience. And earlier this year, back in the April timeframe, I was asked to step into a global role as the Global Chief Diversity Officer, thereby taking the strategic plan that I had put together for the next 3 years to that group level, and then making the programs and the opportunities available to all our some 100,000 employees in 73 different countries. This has been a wonderful opportunity to really get focused, to ensure that everyone is talking the same language, so to speak, and delivering the programs across the different geographies and groups. What that's done is it's produced an opportunity for affinity groups to spring up, where we're allowing our employees to work together collaboratively to produce programming that is then given in a webinar style, and also to partner with some of our clients as well as some of our competitors to really have conversations and share best practices in this space of diversity and inclusion. So that's it in a nutshell, really.
Excellent. Thank you, Denise. Deborah, you wanted to ask a question.
I do. And Denise, thank you for coming to the program. I have had the pleasure of working with you for a couple of years when Atos had actually acquired employees here in the United States. And so I don't know if the number's still the same, but at the time, Atos had acquired 10,000 employees from part of Xerox, if I'm remembering correctly.
Correctly.
Yes. Yes, and I know that you're joining us from Texas. So, no, from New York, right? From Rochester.
Right.
Yes. And the reason why I said Texas, because a lot of the employees of Atos are in Texas, right? Or am I wrong? Is it?
We have employees in the U.S. We have employees in New York State, in Texas, California, Georgia, as well as New Jersey. And we are about 9,600 strong. We fluctuate between 9,600 and 10,000. And those people serve a variety of clients. Some are US based, some are based over in Europe, and some are in the Latin American countries. We also have a presence in Canada and in Mexico and some of our South American countries, as well as the Philippines, to make up sort of this North American presence.
Okay, quite, and I know that Atos has how many, 200,000 employees overall?
Just about 100,000 in 73 countries. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So very, very large global corporation. So, but so I thought it was really cool that it's a corporation that is a French corporation, but of course there are employees in all of these countries. And I love a little bit that the first global chief diversity officer is here in the US, because I know how brilliant you are. So congratulations with that. But I also think it's interesting how y'all broke the segments apart, especially with generations, because of course, as we know, as we age, more of us acquire disabilities. So that seems like a very interesting way that you've categorized it. And of course, here in the United States, with all the litigation and all the things that happen here in the US with diversity inclusion, I'm curious why Atos decided to focus on the 4 channels like that you mentioned before. It sounds very innovative to me, but I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind digging in a little bit more to those 4 areas.
So obviously gender was almost a no-brainer choice for a company that is IT based. And we all know the statistics and the numbers related to the fact that in IT and technology, women don't make up as large an audience of employees as men do. As a matter of fact, our company is really focused on that to increase the number of women who work for us. And it's not only just women, it's women of color, women of other races, women of different sexual orientation. So we have the opportunity to really put some programs in place to help women develop. So that pillar was a no-brainer. The next pillar that we put some particular emphasis on was culture. And culture, it really comes into play because we are rolling in our affinity groups into that. So we have affinity groups for women, for people of Asian descent, for here in America, people of African American descent. We have affinity groups for millennials. We have one that's called 10 plus. And that affinity group is for people who have more than 10 years of working experience. And we do an annual employee survey, and some of the survey results indicated the fact that this bracket of people who have more than 10 years of experience kind of felt left out of programs that were in place. We have a large focus on junior employees. We have a large focus on senior level people, but that middle ground seemed to feel like they were being left out of opportunities. So since we started that affinity group, we've seen a huge uptick in satisfaction with the programming that is available to them, because honestly, a lot of it came down to the fact that they didn't know what they didn't know. And so through these education programs we've been hosting, they've learned how they can get better engaged, grow their skills, become more marketable within the company, and get into some opportunities that exist. So culture has been an important pillar for us too, and has seen a lot of the programming that we've been offering to our employees, whether it be education-based, whether it's networking, whether it's job seeking, etc. So then the third pillar is accessibility and disability. And obviously this is of key importance, because to be able to truly be seen as an inclusive employer, we have to employ people from all walks of life. And as a result, we have to pay special attention to this. Neil and I have been working very diligently on actually putting a group program in place, a policy that will encompass all things accessibility/disability, so that our employees have easy transition into becoming an employee of our company or gaining access to tools that they need. And then the fourth pillar is really focused on, so we've got generations, we've got culture, we've got accessibility, disability, we've got gender. And the fourth pillar is our generations pillar. And we have to face the fact that our workforce is evolving. As you mentioned, Deborah, as people age, there will be more needs for accessibility in the workplace and accommodations. But also, too, we have a very interesting opportunity in the fact that there are 5 different generations in the workplace right now. And we have to learn how to communicate with them. We have to learn how to train them, motivate them, lead them, reward them, etc. So this pillar really supports all of that type of programming and information. And we have a millennials affinity group for our younger employees. We have programs, we call it our juniors group, for our emerging talent and those people who are consistent performers to accelerate their growth. We just started a brand new program for new graduates from college coming into Atos as their first time full-time career, where we are going to move them up a couple of job code levels within a 3-year program. So it's a very accelerated process. And then, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, in that culture space, we're paying special attention to that cadre of employees who have more than 10 years of experience, still are very important to our business and have a lot to offer, but who have felt kind of, left behind by some of the programs that are in place. And two, we're taking our leaders to the next level so that they have an understanding of how to lead across generations, how to provide performance feedback that is gender neutral, and how to interview without any kind of unconscious bias affecting the decision-making process. So that's a little bit why and how we came up with those 4 pillars and how we're executing to them as we go through the programming. I hope that answers your question.
It does, and I'm wondering about too. So how are you dealing with the LGBT community? And I would also be curious with, and once again, we're disability, and we're diversity inclusion here in the US, and we're very conscious about how we're doing it, but also how about religion? Is religion falling under the culture? I was just curious about those 2 segments.
Those are good questions. So first, LGBT rolls up under culture, and I was amiss to not mention that a little bit more strongly when I was talking, but we have affinity groups around the globe that are LGBT based. And our strongest groups happen to be in the UK and in the US, and are sort of acting as sister groups to our newer affinity groups that are coming up. We just recently launched an affinity group in Poland for LGBT population, as well as in France. And we have actually ended up with some very good information as a result of that has been spread out across the globe. Next week in the UK, there's what's called the Diversity Expo going on. And so there's a series of live face-to-face as well as webinar-based discussions going on in every one of these pillars. And the LGBT group has a strong presence during these events because they are extremely well organized, have a true passion around this space. And one of the things that we have recently been working on and have just posted to our global internet is a travel guide for those who are LGBT, because as you know, if you are an expatriate employee who's been reassigned to a different country, the laws and regulations are often different from where you came from. And it's important for you as someone from this population to understand some of the laws that may affect you and your family as you move into a new country as to accept your new role. So yes, LGBT. Then religion, we haven't really gotten to the point yet where we are starting to have religious-based affinity groups, not because we're not going to, but because there hasn't been a direct ask for that to this point. That's on the 2019 docket for sure. So there will be opportunities, and I will, offer out the guidance and so forth to get them up and running. And then I basically serve as sort of a de facto member of all of the different affinity groups and can lend a hand, help with research and so forth as they're pulling together programming. But yes, we will eventually put religion into the culture pillar. So it will be part and parcel of that program.
Thank you, Denise. And I know that our friends running Atos Pride will be flying the rainbow flag high next week for our Diversity and Inclusion Expo.
Yeah.
I'm actually quite excited about it. We've got some amazing guests. We've got Yoga. They've snagged probably the most high profile of all. They've got Jürgen Meyer, who's the CEO of Siemens UK, coming along. First out CEO, big spokesperson. So that's a real coup for them. Obviously, we've got Nasser Siabi, who was on AXSchat a couple of weeks ago. He's coming. We've got Fleur Bothwick, who's the Director for Diversity for IMEA for Ernst & Young. There's some other great guests from all of the networks. So I think it's going to be a great couple of days. I'm lucky to be co-hosting it with Sam. And of course, it's going to be live streamed with captions so that we're accessible. I think it's really nice that we can share this stuff. with our colleagues around the globe, because and do it openly and actually show our enthusiasm for this stuff, because a lot of the people that have started off these networks are doing it on top of their day jobs, and the amount of effort that people have put in has been really tremendous, and we've really seen some significant progress, because I started volunteering actually that's scary, 5 years ago, and it's been a real step change. Firstly, sort of having more formal groups, but also having the support of someone like yourself to actually in a formal role helps an awful lot to keep the momentum going. So it's I think been a really positive experience, and I think that also the group accessibility policy that we're implementing is going to again be another step change. It covers so many different aspects of the organization. It's quite rare for organizations to have something that covers something at head office level, and we've also been working with Business Disability Forum on this whole sort of international head office based maturity model approach. So feels like a lot of the stuff's coming together all at the same time, and like several years worth of effort are sort of all converging, and positive stuff is happening right now. So it's really good. The other thing that I know you're doing and you're passionate about, which and then I've just seen Antonio's got a question as well, is that you've been working with Rochester Institute around inclusion of people who are autistic in the workplace and also in education. Can you tell us a bit about that? And then I'll hand over to Antonio.
Okay, great. So this neurodiversity program that Rochester Institute of Technology, or RIT as their acronym goes, is one of the first in the US that is focused on students who are on the spectrum. And these students have self-identified as incoming freshmen. So this is the first year of the program. There are 40 participants, and 3 of them are women. And one of the biggest issues we know that people who are neurodiverse deal with is communication and being able to speak to people, interact during meetings and so forth, which will be expected of them in the business world. So what I've been doing in conjunction with the program is I'm offering support through some training classes focused on business communications, how to structure an agenda for a meeting, how to pull together a logical, progressive presentation, how to write a business email, how to respond to an IM professionally. And that is sort of a generational touch too, because the younger generations use all these texting abbreviations that someone who's been in the workforce for longer may have no idea what they're saying. So it's all about making sure that they provide insights and not insults, and whatever they communicate is constructive as opposed to potentially destructive. So it's been largely a volunteer program for these students, and obviously built around their class schedules too. You can have a varying number of students in any of these sessions, but the biggest thing that has come out of it is that they are asking questions. And when you're doing something that is largely virtual based, having your audience participate is one of the most difficult things that you have to face as a presenter. So I'm thrilled that they're asking questions, because that shows that they are engaged, that this is meaningful to them, and that they want to make sure they're getting it right. So the program has been well received. I'm running a couple sessions in early August for those summer school students, because there are some students who are taking classes during the summer break. And then we'll start the cadence all over again in the October timeframe for the next incoming group of freshmen. I don't know the numbers yet as to how many are coming in at that point with that particular class, but I should know them probably within the next couple of weeks. Like I said, very new, a great opportunity to partner at the local level, but also really showcase Atos as a potential future employer for these students. They're all 18, 19 years old right now, but we all know how fast a year goes by. And before you know it, they'll be ready for the workforce. And hopefully they'll consider us as an employer of choice because they were involved in this program. So it's a win-win for everyone. And it's just a great opportunity for me too, to keep kind of on top of some of the issues that students of today are facing, because that's going to be an important part of our generational pillar moving forward. So it really flows nicely for everyone.
So, Denise, over the last, let's say over the last 2 years, the topic of diversity has become something really hot in terms of conversation, especially focus on the startup world. So it's rare the day that we open the web and we don't see something that relates with that. So how do you see the work that you are doing today, trying to acquire a more diverse organization into aspects, internally, where allowing people to be themselves at work, at the same time, finding a way to hire talent? How do you see your work being reflected not only in the United States while attracting new talent, but at the same time influencing other colleagues around the world in doing the same?
That's a really good question. I'm very heavily involved with the recruiting group right now because we are taking a look at all of our job descriptions and rewriting them so that they are more inclusive, less gender-centric, and that they're culturally appropriate as well. Because a certain word in a certain culture has a totally different meaning as in other cultures. And we have to be mindful of that. Also, too, we were made aware of the fact that a lot of our job ads, as they appear on different external websites and so forth, were using very specific imagery that was very male-centric. And we're not looking for only men to apply for our company. We want, women, we want people of different ages, different backgrounds, etc. So we've had to work with our branding team to really look at the imagery we're using and that we're suggesting. There's also a whole bunch of augmented writing tools that have become very important in the last few months and years in this space of diversity. And we are actually working with our chief digital officer to look at which one of those tools will help us the most as we take on this task of rewriting all things recruiting. And in so doing, we'll be able to then train our personnel who work in the recruiting space. And then as the jobs are advertised, they will be much more inclusive and, really support our key messages that we're trying to get across externally. So that's a huge effort. Obviously won't be finished in 15 minutes, but the payoff will be enormous over time. And then internally, some of the things that we are doing is, through the growth of the affinity groups, more and more people are getting involved and learning that they could too start their own affinity group, because we certainly are not telling people they can, and we encourage them to do so. We are also exposing people to different types of individuals that they may not have had direct exposure to. And earlier this year, I started a program called Invest in Yourself, which was focused on understanding how to communicate across cultures, how to have solid conversations with people from different generations, how to uncover and deal with and address unconscious bias in the decision-making process. There was a course on disability awareness, ways by which you can approach and deal with and interact with and have success with employees of different backgrounds and so forth. So this is an 8-part series. We're nearing the end of it, which has been a wonderful opportunity for us. It's available to all employees voluntarily. At the end of the series, they have the option of taking a quiz to become internally certified in this discipline area, and then they get that on their resumes and so forth. It's a mark of pride within Atos for these internal certifications, so this is a great opportunity. Then in the fall, there will be a follow-up series for leaders called the Inclusive Leader, where we're going to specifically have sessions on leading with an ethical, diverse attitude. Also, the concept of providing performance feedback that is gender neutral. I've read a number of articles about the different ways that men and women's performance reviews are structured structured, and that's because of unconscious bias. And so we're going to expose that to our leaders so that they have a better understanding. There's also an opportunity to bring in Fleur, who is going to be speaking next week at the Diversity Expo, to introduce this inclusive leader series. And I've partnered with Patsy Dorr from Thomson Reuters, and I've got Ian Haroop from Learning Incorporation. We're all having these conversations all the time as diversity leaders and are starting to share best practices with each other, be guests at each other's events, and so forth. So internally, that's letting our employees know that we are truly devoted to this. This isn't a one and done effort. It will continue on. But externally now, other corporations are becoming more aware of the fact that we take this seriously. We feel it's not just something to work on part-time. It's a full-time opportunity and a full-time responsibility. And this gives us the chance to, just increase our footprint too, both internally and externally. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, but I think Deborah also wants to, we both want to comment, but no, Deborah, please.
Well, Antonio, why don't you go first since you asked the question, and then I'll make my comment.
Okay. We organized an event last year on doing inclusion talks, and one of our colleagues mentioned, sometimes it's really helpful for me to be able to work from home, where I feel more comfortable and I'm able to do some tasks more effectively. So how do you think is the fact that we are an organization friendly to remote work can have a positive impact as we are increase our diversity level?
That's a good question. And we are talking more and more about flexible work. And ironically, I was in a discussion this morning. We have a women in leadership meeting once a month, and the topic of flexible work conditions came up. So it is something that at the senior leadership level, we are really starting to look at more closely. And this, this flexible working takes on many forms too. Just like you said, I'm more comfortable working at home. I would love the opportunity to work from home 1 to 2 days a week. Or I would like to return to the workforce part-time now that I've had my child and want to only have my child in daycare for half-time. Or I would like to do a job share with an individual. Here in North America this summer, we offered an opportunity for summer flex hours where people would reduce their work hours to 32 hours a week. Obviously, that was also going to impact their salary for the summer period, but they could have the option to either have a day off during the week or just work fewer hours during the work day. This has been an ideal program for people who have school-aged children. And notice I didn't say women, I said people, because all genders have been participating in this program this summer, which has been really good. It's an eye-opening thing because, back in the day, the women were in charge of the children, and that's just not the way our family lives work anymore. So we'll continue to look at flexible work opportunities and all the different definitions of what makes a flexible work environment too. So yes, we will be sourcing information from our employees about what their needs are in this space, and then trying our best to pull together programs that are mutually beneficial so that the work still gets done, but employee satisfaction doesn't have to suffer as a result. Did that answer your question?
You did perfect. Thank you.
Great.
Well, and I know, Denise, that you're also part of the United Nations International Labor Organization's Global Business Disability Network. ATOS joined that group not very long ago. So I think it's so interesting that because all these conversations we're having, we're talking about the future of work. You're really talking about, being the employer of choice. And Atos is such a big global company in so many different countries. I liked the comment that you made where you're working with other chief diversity officers and leaders in the business to make sure you're sharing the best practices and empowering each other, thus empowering your company and the employees. So what I know of Atos is the leaders like you and Neil and Antonio that I've met, and it just really seems to be a real commitment to the employees. And I love the summer flex things. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's been, this wasn't not, I'm not going to call it an experiment because there was a lot of thought that went into it. So it wasn't some fly-by-night idea that occurred on a Friday afternoon. But, it's been interesting to see the reaction to it. And we've gotten some thank you notes from people who have been participating in the flexible working. And some of the leaders who were initially concerned that it was going to impact the numbers have seen no real decrease in the amount of work getting done. So they're thrilled by that too. And so it means it can work. It just means a collaborative, very structured approach to it so that it works to everyone's advantage.
Thanks, Denise. So, I think that there's so much going on. And as a flex worker myself, or rather a home worker, I take advantage of the fact that we're much more focused on getting the job done than turning in the hours. Yes, of course we turn in the hours, but it's not about presenteeism. And from my point of view, as a user of speech recognition software, I actually feel more comfortable sat in my own little space dictating to stuff without people sort of going, "Ooh, what's he doing?" Whereas when I was previously in the office much more, I'd be sat in the open plan, and people, you feel kind of conscious doing it, even though I've been doing it for years. People still sort of pick up on it, or are curious, or even take the mickey sometimes. So for me, it's given me an accommodation for my needs, and enabled me to actually do more, be more flexible, participate in things like this. So if I think actually I'd find it much harder to do things like AXSchat, which adds value to the organization. It adds value to my life because I learn stuff every week that wouldn't have if we were much more regimented. So I think there's real benefits to it, and I think that the organizations still need to adjust to, because it's going to become more fluid still. And I think that some of the stuff that we've been looking at through the scientific community, which is our sort of company think tank, has been around how the gig economy is going to affect larger organizations, and the sort of fluidity of organizations is going to be different. And that also ties in with all of these questions that also affect diversity, the ethics, the inclusivity, and so on. So I think when we're talking about the future of work, it's not just home working and dialing in for meetings. It's the whole, how do you live your life? How do you get that work-life balance? How do you be inclusive? Right. What's your product offering? So I think it's really it's really a massive topic, and that you and I are lucky to be working in a really interesting area.
I agree. Every day I'm challenged, but I'm excited by the challenge. There's a difference in challenge. Sometimes challenge can be very negative and weigh you down and make you feel sick to your stomach and all of that. I never feel that way when I come to work, because there's always something positive that can come out of all of this. And, we were talking about the flexibility. We're looking to improve the questions on our annual employee survey to be more focused on inclusivity and diversity. So I submitted about 20 questions yesterday for consideration in this year's survey. Fingers crossed that, they'll make it through all of the different layers that have to be dealt with to be able to get consideration for the survey. But then too, we're also looking at a tool called the Chief Happiness Officer. So we can take quick pulses of our employees to determine how they're feeling. Are they feeling comfortable in their workplace? Are they feeling like they're being, discriminated against? Do they feel like they're being missed out on opportunities? Are they happy with the work they're doing? All of this stuff really lends itself in the space of diversity very nicely as well. So it's not just taking a look at a very small window. It's really opening that window up and looking outside at the environment around the company, as well as within the walls of our company as well. So we've got a lot to do. Like you mentioned, it's never the same every single day. And this diversity space will continue to evolve. We have the generational aspect that's incredibly important for us to deal with so that we get things right, because all kinds of studies indicate that if a person joins a company within 6 months, if they don't feel like they've found their niche, found their people, then they're not going to stay, and they'll leave within 18 months, which is an enormous cost to a company to retrain a new individual, etc. Plus, we want people to feel accepted, welcome, and valued in the workplace. And this is a part of our responsibility. We've got to pay attention to disability and accessibility so that our people have the tools and can do the job they're assigned to do. If they can't, then obviously they're going to leave as well. We have to pay attention to the cultural aspects so that a person feels that they're not only contributing in a business sense, but they're safe to talk about what it is that they believe in and their families and all of that as well. And then we have to pay attention to the gender equation. If we don't, we are losing the opportunity for that diversity of thought that comes from having all genders represented in a working team. We can't expect a very innovative product if there's only one set of individuals looking at the solution. So all of these pillars are going to continue to be equally important. I see there's something in the AXSchat about blue collar employees. So, it's important to pay attention to the difference between what they call shirts and ties too. So you've got the people who actually perform the work. And some of them in our company, we don't have as many blue collar employees because we don't produce a product, but we do have junior level employees who don't have the same technical expertise as a more senior individual might have. And then even within this technical company, we have people who are non-technical employees, like myself. I barely get my computer turned on effectively every day. So we have that to think about too. So it is looking at the audience as well, determining what that particular audience needs. And then within that audience, what are the effects of the different pillars on their capability of doing their jobs effectively and having satisfaction in their roles and opportunity to develop and grow. So it's all of this that's rolled into it.
Fantastic. So we're up for time. It's gone very quickly. As always, it's always a pleasure chatting with you, Denise. Thank you so much. We need to also thank Barclays Bank and the accessibility team there for their continued support for this. Without them, we would be struggling to keep the lights on, and so we give them the kudos for participating as well and being part of a community. It's great when companies become part of a community, and I know it keeps cropping up. You've been talking about the community of diversity officers. Last week we had Business Disability Forum on. We have a community of accessibility people sharing stuff. I think it's that community and collaboration which is the common thread that is woven through this fabric that we're all part of. So thank you very much again, Denise. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to you joining us on Twitter.
Great. Thanks very much for having me. It was fun. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise.